Hi again, everybody. My name is Greg Anderson, and this is the Good Timekeeping Show with Greg Anderson. And today I want to talk about GoPro cameras. I told you I was going to make a GoPro video. Well, here it is. So I'm kind of an early adopter on these GoPro cameras. I had the GoPro Hero 1, actually, and then I bought the GoPro Hero 2 just a little while after that, about 15 years ago. And just to show you here, this one still works. Hey, look at that. I haven't used it forever because, I've got other cameras that are remarkably better. But yeah, here it is. And this, when they came out with the first GoPro Hero and Hero 2 HD cameras, they came just basically like this. And as you can clearly see, there's no way to mount this as it is straight out of the box. And that lens is kind of, not very well protected. So they used to come with a nice waterproof case provided. So yeah, just snap that open. Hasn't been open for a while. Yeah, place that in there. This one, I got a Wi-Fi module add-on that you can put on it, and then together they just go right in the case. And now you've got a way to mount it to all your GoPro mounting accessories, and it's waterproof protection on there, and you're good to go. Okay. And then people realized that the domed lens there was not really very good underwater. So I bought this little modifier kit here where I was able to put this on there and make it work better underwater. And then eventually GoPro actually sold their own version with a flat lens cover there. So you could get better footage, more clean images underwater. I've been with GoPro for a while there. So I had version 1 and version 2. And here's something that they started selling early on too. This is a skeleton case. So with this one, it looks a lot like the waterproof case, but it's not waterproof because there's actually an opening here on the sides, and then on the back cover there's some openings there. So that helps with the sound if you're trying to record sound. But the main selling point for this skeleton case was you could put it in the case, and even though it's not waterproof, it's pretty well protected from anything that's going to hit the front of it. And you have access on the sides here. You could plug in a mini HDMI mini HDMI connector there. You have access to the memory card slot right there. And then also over here on the other side, you had power, you had an external microphone, and a red, yellow, and white, the RCA cable there. And then I also had, it didn't come with originally a monitor on the back, but that was an add-on you could buy and snap that on there and have an actual screen on the back of it. It wasn't a touch screen, but at least it was something that you could use to see what the camera was doing, while you've got it turned on. Isn't it funny? This 15-year-old GoPro still works. Didn't lose it in the river or anything yet. So anyway, one thing I did, because it had the access to power right there, one thing I liked to do with the GoPro when I first started using it was to mount it on the outside of a car and record videos from the outside of the car. Now, a lot of people would use, a dash cam and have a camera inside the car. I didn't want that. I wanted to be outside the car, and I could, place it on the door. I could have it pointing forward, backward, put it on the front of the hood. Just there's a lot of things I could do with it. But one thing, if I were on a long road trip, I wanted to see if I could do a really long duration video and then maybe do time lapse with it. Well, this camera didn't have an easy way to do time lapse, but it did have interval recording, if you will, or interval still pictures. So here's what you could do. You could set it up to take a still picture every second, or every, twice per second, or every 2 seconds. There were some intervals there. So I would do that, and maybe I would say one still picture every second. Then I would have this long sequence of still pictures that I could put into a video timeline in the computer. Then I could assemble those into a time-lapse video. Okay, and if I did it every 2 seconds, one frame of a still picture that I put in the timeline at 30 frames per second, that would mean every hour of still images would make 1 minute of moving video when I did this process. And so in order to make that happen, I had to put in external power to keep this going for hours and hours and hours, because the battery in here just wouldn't last that long. Now, the other option would be to simply record video and then speed that up in the computer later on. But unfortunately, if I were going to go for a few hours of continuous video, I would fill up the memory card and they'd just run out of memory to do that. So the more efficient way to create a time lapse at the time was to do a still picture at a certain regular interval and turn it into video in the computer. Okay, so I did that for a while, and the only drawback of doing that is I needed to have continuous power. And so back then, 15 years ago, USB power sources out of a car, this wasn't quite as ubiquitous as it is today. So I set up a power inverter that plugged into the accessories plug. We used to call it the cigarette lighter plug in the car. And then I ran a cable. I ran from the inverter to a USB power brick of sorts. Then I ran a cable from that out to the outside of the car where this was mounted on the outside of the car. And one of my favorite videos I did that way, I went to Los Angeles for a wedding, and it was a 12-hour road trip back to northern Utah after the wedding the next day. And so I ran this one frame of a still frame that I turn into video every 2 seconds, one frame for 2 seconds, and it turned into about a 12-hour road trip reduced to about 12 minutes. And I posted that video on YouTube many, many years ago. It's got some views on there. It's kind of fun to see. The only thing I didn't like about that video is that there were no clouds in the sky. And so when you're doing a time-lapse driving like that, fast driving, it's always more interesting when there are clouds in the sky. And for some reason, this day, which was like the last week of October, there were just no clouds in the sky all the way from Los Angeles through, Nevada and a little bit of Arizona and all through Utah. So anyway, but it's still a fun video. I'm glad I made it. And so that's what I did way back in the day. Now, moving ahead, fast forward, I bought version 1 and version 2 of the GoPro Hero. Then I skipped versions 3, 4, and 5, and finally decided to buy another one with version 6. So this is a GoPro Hero version 6. Unfortunately, this one doesn't work anymore. If I put a battery in it, it just doesn't do anything. I can't charge the battery, won't do anything. So, this one's just a museum piece at this point. But one of the reasons I really wanted to buy this camera was that it could do time-lapse right in camera. So I could set it to a time-lapse mode. I could let it run for an hour or however long it was going to go. And then at the end, stop the recording, and it created a video file in time-lapse right there straight out of the camera. So that was fun. And I could rig up a USB-C power source through there, and then I could run it for a long duration using this. Now you can see it still doesn't have a way to mount it. So I think instead of selling it with a waterproof case, they just sold it with this little frame here. So it just slides in here, you close this up, and then you can mount that to the outside of the car or wherever. And then you could buy the waterproof case separately if you wanted to have waterproof protection. But this was already a little bit waterproof without any special case, which is good enough for most of us. You could get a swimming pool with this without a case on it and still be waterproof. So pretty good, but I didn't like the fact that there was no protection here, because as I'm driving around, what if there's a little pebble on the road or bugs or whatever that could splatter on the front of the camera? There's nothing to protect it. So by using, one of the waterproof cases, that gave me a little bit more protection against those kind of road hazards. So anyway, I had version 6 here. Then I also bought version 7, and I like the version 7. It's almost identical, but it does have increased capacity for stabilization. So I played around with this one, and then in order to do the mount this on the outside of the car thing, I found this case here, a metal cage. So all you do is you slide the camera in there, and then you just slide this in here to hold it in. And so now you've got this protection here. What I really liked about this thing on the front, this was made so you could put filters on it. So right there, so a little bit of protection. I got an extra oversized filter here because I wanted to put not just like a UV protector filter on there, but also maybe I wanted to try neutral density. and see if I could get a little bit more of a motion blur in the time-lapse videos. So that's what I did with this. And you can see that with that giant giant filter on there, it does offer some pretty good protection for the front of the camera as I'm driving around. And maybe a rock chip or bugs or whatever we get on this filter, but I could maybe get relatively cheap filters that would do the job. So that's what I did with version 7 of the GoPro. Next, I went for version 8. And the thing about version 8 is that it does not have an interchangeable front cover here. On this other one, if you really wanted, if this thing got cracked on the front of it, you can just twist this off and replace just this little front piece. But this one did not have that. So I definitely got myself a little case for that, and I could put this on the outside of the car and run it that way. For the most part, very similar to version 6, version 7. So now again, for those of you keeping score at home, I bought version 1 and version 2. I skipped 3, 4, and 5. I bought 6, 7, and 8. I skipped 9, 10, and 11, and then I bought version 12 of the GoPro Hero. That's the one that has the little blue specks on it that looks like someone had it too close to the paint booth when they were painting their car or something. So this is version 12, and so it's a little bit bigger. It needed a whole new case, so I bought this this case here, and it has a skeleton back. I also have a version of this case. You can just pop this back off and put a solid version of it there and have it be, fully waterproof there. But it is, again, waterproof without a case. But this gives it a little extra level of protection. But I decided to go for something like what I had with the previous cage idea. So this is a metal cage here, and you just pop this in here. And then, once it's in place, then you put this cover on it, and now you got it. And with this camera, I decided to just go with a standard, smaller, UV filter there. And I have some neutral density filters from GoPro that I can pop off the one that's on there, put a neutral density filter, put that on there. I took a little piece of plastic and added it to this for a little bit of extra protection, again, against bugs or just, little rocks on the road or whatever. And so now I live with this for a while. Now, in order to get external power, however, I decided to try a pass-through door. And you can get this from GoPro, or you can get it from a third party here. So what you can do is you can, sometimes it's a little tricky, with my fingernails, to pull the door off. There we go. And then it kind of snaps off this way, and snap this door on, and there you go. Now this has access to the USB-C port right there. And now I can take the USB-C cable of my choice and press it in there. And it's not fully waterproof, but it is weather resistant, I would say. So you can stick this on the outside of your car. And as long as the camera is not submerged in water, it should not allow the water to get in there. And so this is what I would do for a while to get my, external power for my long duration videos while I'm driving around. The only tricky thing is with this particular cage that I have here, I actually had to take the door off, then put this inside the cage, and then reinstall the door when it's in the cage, because it just won't slide in there with this little extra piece sticking off of the door. So, okay. Then I saw GoPro had something they called the Contacto door. And it was kind of like this. This is a third-party imitation of the Contacto door. But what it does is it has a little USB, connector right there. So when I stick this on, okay, and it just kind of snaps in place, and then I close it. Right now, it is actually water resistant at this point. But what I can do there, I've got these contacts on there, and there's a magnetic connector, just like that, that's made to go with it, and it just snaps on and is held on by magnetism, okay, and easily comes on and off. And with that connector there, which then interfaces with the USB connector under this little flap here, then I can provide power, or also do, file transfers and whatever, and not really have to take the battery out for any reason. Even though I have spare batteries, I could just leave it this way and charge it just by connecting that. Real easy, right? But again, because it has a little piece that sticks out there on the corner, I have to actually remove this door in order to put it in here. And also I had to kind of make a little notch there on the side so that when it's all put together, this part of the case does not prevent this from making a good connection. I'll show you how that works. Slide it in there. Okay. Put this piece on to keep it, so it won't fall out. Okay, now it's in there secure. Now I put the door on. Snap that shut nice and tight. Then I make the magnetic connection here. And there you go. Now it's ready to go for, continuous power for indefinitely long. I could do a 12-hour road trip and do a time lapse and have it just like that. Or I could do star trails at night, let it run overnight. And it's kind of nice to have that. I decided to save a little bit of money by getting a third-party version of the Contacto door, but it works just as well as the original GoPro Contacto door. Okay, that brings me to now my newest GoPro camera. This is the Mission 1 Pro, and it's larger than all the other GoPro cameras that were previous to this. And so my old housings, my old, the cages, all that stuff, that none of it's compatible with this because it's a larger camera, right? So I had to kind of start over getting my supplies. When I pre-ordered this, in order to sweeten the deal, they decided to throw in this professional grip, GoPro grip thing that they tossed in that said it was $100 value, but it's really kind of easy to just slide that in, and then that snaps in place there, and then you can actually put this part on it as well, and now you've got a little something you can hold on to, and there's actually a little lever that goes in there to kind of make it feel more like a regular kind of handheld camera. Okay, so the thing about this is, okay, it's kind of nice. It is actually very kind of nice, but again, this doesn't really offer that protection on the front of it like I would want. If I were to stick this on the outside of the car, it's really no more protection than if I just put it on the outside of a car, exactly like this. And I wanted some protection on there. And one thing about the Mission 1 Pro that I've noticed so far is there's not a lot of support out there for by the third-party people. As you can see here, this is something they introduced with the version 8. You've got the little mounts built in there, so you don't necessarily need to have a case for this. But again, I wanted that protection there. So the only thing I found was the official GoPro waterproof case. So I stuck that on there, and then now it's safe to put it on the outside of a car. But what I really wanted was to be able to run continuous power on the outside of the car when I'm doing this. So I thought, well, maybe if I wait around long enough, maybe the company that made this would make one for the Mission 1 Pro. I got a little bit tired of waiting, and this would probably cost somewhere around $30 to get this, whereas it costs about $60 to get this waterproof case from GoPro. Then they're pretty readily available. I could go down and get one at Best Buy without having to wait for shipping or anything. So I decided, what if I took this and I just cut a hole in the side of it to accommodate external power while this is on the outside of the car. I still get the front protection here. Over the entire front of the camera is protected. So I finally decided to just go for it. And what I really wanted to do also was make sure that the Contacto door would also work with this housing over here. I found a deal where I could save, about $20 to get the official Contacto door from GoPro this time. And so the trouble with the Contacto door is now this corner of the camera down here on this, it sticks out. And it sticks out in such a way that it does not fit correctly inside this housing. So when I decided to modify the housing, I had to first accommodate this extra little piece of the Contacto door. And so I got to admit, I did not do this in a very pretty way. I took a drill and I just kind of decided where that needed to be. I had to create just a little bit of a notch there. So now this will easily slide in and out, accommodating that little extra bit here. If you tried to take this with the Contacto door and push the camera into the housing, you could probably get it in there, but then it would get stuck and you wouldn't be able to take it out. So I pushed it in just enough to find out where that little notch needed to be, and then I worked on it and made sure that notch was big enough. And you know, it does not rattle around. It still fits in there really nice. And then over here, and this is really ugly, I cut out this side of the door, but as you can see, now that it's this way, the Contacto, you know, makes contact just really easily there, and that works just fine. And the only thing I did, I still have the solid waterproof door for the back, but I had to make a little notch here on this skeleton door so that when the Contacto magnet connector is on there, you know, it still fits flush there. If I didn't modify this edge of the door, then this would not make contact. It would be sitting out too far, right? So, okay, admitting that this is not a very pretty solution, it cost me about $60 to get a case, and then, you know, I just kind of made a sloppy hole in it, and now it works just great. In fact, it's exactly what I wanted. And my only complaint now to GoPro is, hey, you know what? Why did I have to do this? Why did I have to make a case that has protection on the front and can accommodate the Contacto door when back 15 years ago you knew how to make a skeleton case that had access to you know, power, and you sold this. GoPro, you sold this 15 years ago. I had to create this. Third-party companies have not stepped up to create this. I had to do this. And so you're probably saying, oh, it just looks so ugly. You've ruined the waterproof case. You know, what are you going to do now? Well, that's easy. I just got on the line and I ordered another waterproof case. So here's a waterproof case that's completely intact. So the next time I really, truly decide that this needs to be in a waterproof case, I'll just use this brand new one. Nice thing about the waterproof case that they sell now for the Mission 1 Pro is this dive housing here. You've got the, you know, you've got the accommodation there on the bottom for your GoPro mounts. You also have one on the side. So if it makes more sense to mount the camera from the side, either for, you know, vertical video, or just you want to stick it on the side of something and not have to be limited to mounting from the bottom, you can do that. And, you know, this is brand new. I haven't even opened it up yet. I don't need it yet, but if I do, I have it. $60. Now I have one that does Contacto and one that does not. I suppose I could take this intact housing and I could make a little notch down there so that I would never have to take off this Contacto door. But I'm thinking that the waterproof integrity has probably been compromised by that little notch that I made down there in the corner of the case. So I think next time I want to stick this in a fully waterproof case, I'm just going to replace, you know, put the Contacto door aside and put the regular door back on it, and then I can put that in there. So anyway, what I have now is what I wanted. I can go on a long road trip now. I could drive to Los Angeles or back from Los Angeles or anywhere, and I could use the Contacto door, the Contacto power, and have continuous, virtually unlimited power to have this camera do whatever I want it to do inside this case that will protect it from road hazards. And there you go. Now that I've done this, maybe some third party will step up and have something like this available that I don't have to modify by myself. But in the meantime, I was too impatient, and that's why I did this. And so I will leave you now with a family portrait here. Here's my GoPros from the first two that I had, and 6, 7, and 8 here, and then 12 and Mission 1 Pro. Yeah, it's all one big happy family, and they all still work except for this one, and which should just kind of go in a memory box, a shadow box that I will hang in my office. And I'm going to leave you with a little bit of some of the fun, some of the videos I've made with these cameras by having the camera on outside of the car with some time-lapse fun. And I'll leave you with that, and I'll see you next time here on the Good Timekeeping Show.